Hello everyone, and welcome back to English Time Daily History. Today, we're journeying back to the birth of the United States to explore the life and legacy of a monumental figure, George Washington. We all know him as the first president, but who was the man behind the myths? How did a Virginian planter become the father of a nation? Let's find out. Our story begins not in a presidential palace, but on the rugged battlefields of the American Revolution. Before he was a president, George Washington was a general, the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. His task was immense: to lead a ragtag group of volunteer soldiers against the most powerful military force in the world, the British Empire. The war was long and brutal. Washington faced incredible hardships. His army was often underfunded, poorly supplied, and on the brink of collapse. There were moments of staggering defeat, like the difficult winter at Valley Forge, where his soldiers suffered from starvation and disease. But it was in these darkest hours that Washington's true character shone through. He wasn't just a commander. He was a leader who shared his soldiers' suffering. He famously used his own funds to pay and equip his men, and his steadfast presence inspired a loyalty that held the fragile army together. His strategic brilliance also turned the tide. The daring Christmas crossing of the Delaware River to surprise the Hessian forces at Trenton was a masterstroke, a pivotal victory that boosted morale and revived the revolutionary cause. It showed that the Americans could and would fight back. After years of struggle, with crucial help from French allies, Washington cornered the British Army at Yorktown in 1781, forcing a surrender that effectively ended the war. He hadn't just won a war, he had secured the birth of a new nation. With independence won, Washington did something that shocked the world. Instead of seizing power for himself, as many victorious generals throughout history had done, he resigned his commission and returned to his farm at Mount Vernon. This act was revolutionary in itself. It demonstrated his deep commitment to the Republican ideal that power should rest with the people, not with a military strongman. It set a precedent for civilian control of the military that remains a cornerstone of American democracy today. But his country would call upon him again. The new United States, governed by the weak Articles of Confederation, was struggling. The states were bickering, the economy was in shambles, and the nation was on the verge of falling apart. Recognizing the need for a stronger central government, leaders called for a constitutional convention in 1787, and they unanimously chose George Washington to preside over it. His presence lent the convention an air of legitimacy and seriousness. While he spoke little during the debates, his quiet, dignified leadership helped guide the delegates toward the compromises that created the U.S. Constitution, the very framework of government that exists today. Once the Constitution was ratified, the new nation needed its first leader. The choice was obvious and unanimous. In 1789, George Washington was elected the first president of the United States. the only president to ever be elected with 100% of the electoral votes. He accepted the role reluctantly, calling his journey to the presidency a walk to my execution. He felt the immense weight of the task ahead. He wasn't just taking an office. He was creating it. As president, every action Washington took would set a precedent for all who followed. He had to build a government from scratch, navigating immense challenges. He established the first presidential cabinet, bringing together brilliant but often conflicting minds like Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton, hoping their debates would forge the best path for the country. He faced the Whiskey Rebellion, a tax protest in western Pennsylvania. Washington's firm response, leading troops himself to quell the uprising, demonstrated that the new federal government had the power and the will to enforce its laws, a stark contrast to the weakness under the Articles of Confederation. In foreign policy, he skillfully navigated the treacherous waters of the French Revolution, issuing the Proclamation of Neutrality to keep the young, fragile nation out of European wars. Perhaps Washington's most enduring legacy as president was his decision to step down after 2 terms. There was no term limit in the Constitution at the time. He could have easily served for life. But by voluntarily leaving office, he reinforced the principle that power is temporary and that the nation is more important than any single individual. In his farewell address, he offered timeless advice, warning against the dangers of political factionalism and foreign entanglements. It remains one of the most important documents in American political history. So, who was George Washington? He was more than just a face on a dollar bill. He was a man of integrity, a reluctant leader who consistently placed his country's good above his own desires. He was the general who won our independence, the statesman who guided the creation of our government, and the president who showed us how to lead with wisdom and humility. He wasn't a perfect man. His life and legacy, particularly regarding the institution of slavery, are complex and deserve critical examination. But his contributions as the indispensable man were foundational. He led a revolution, established a republic, and then gracefully stepped aside, leaving behind a nation built on the promise of liberty. Thank you so much for joining us on English Time Daily History to explore the incredible legacy of George Washington. We hope you found this journey as fascinating as we did. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next dive into history. We'll see you next time.